Alright, so today I'm doing a tier list on one of my favorite bands, Fishmans. Really nothing more to say, I'm just gonna get into it. I got a few quick notes though. For one, I'm including Corduroy's Mood EP, and I am just including 98-12-28, no other live albums like Oh Mountain or anything. But yeah, let's just get into the ranking. Starting at the bottom, we do have Corduroy's Mood EP. It's not like there's anything bad about this thing. It's just a little forgettable. I like the tracks on here. I like every track on here. I don't think there's a bad song on here. But as I said, there's really nothing special about this thing. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It's a quick listen. I like the closer, and that's about it. It's like a decent 7. Above that, though, we have kind of a hot take. We have Orange above it. It's not that this thing's bad. It's just weak, man. I just don't see the appeal to it. I don't know why it's one of Fishman's more popular ones. I don't know why it's more acclaimed than, I don't know, King Master George. It just, like, it doesn't do much for me. It just feels kind of, like, it feels a little overproduced. Like, it doesn't, I don't know, it just feels a little repetitive at times. A lot of the songs on here sound a little samey. I like the more groovy style to it, but it's barely there. It just sounds like a worse version of Chappie Don't Cry to me. That being said, though, it's still good. It's another 7 out of 10 for me, though. Moving up into B tier, though, we do have Neo Yankee Holiday. I have similar feelings to this one that I do with Orange, in the sense that when I'm listening to the songs performed live on 98-12-28, they're definitely the lowest points of the album. I feel like maybe the live album soured Orange and Neo Yankee for me, but at the end of the day, they are the weakest parts of it, and I think they are still weak Fishman's projects for me. They're still both enjoyable, though. I still think they're good. I just like Neo Yankee more than Orange, and I think it's probably the first, I'd say, good to great album on here. It's a light 8. I still really like this thing, just not as much as everything else. Above that, though, we do have their debut album, Chappie Don't Cry. I don't understand why this album is so slept on. So many good albums are slept on, and this is one of those albums. It's such a vibe. It's just so chill. It's oddly nostalgic to me. It reminds me of playing like video games at night. It's like midnight and you're playing video games on the weekend, and it's raining outside and you have snacks with you, but you want ice cream for some reason. It's oddly specific, but that's just what it makes me think of. It's a super chill, super vibey album. I like every song on this album. I don't think there's a bad song. I do think it's a little predictable at times, but it's still a fun and enjoyable album, and it's super slept on. It's a decent 8 for me. I really like this album. Going up into A tier, though, we have Kuchu Camp. I enjoy this album quite a bit. I think I just really enjoy when the band is going into their more ambient dream pop type of sound, but I definitely think this is probably their weakest execution of it. And I think it's specifically because the back half just kind of fizzles out a little for me. I think the first half just kind of sets it up to be this really groovy, really fun album to listen to, and then the back half takes a more ambient pop direction, and it reminds me of Uchu Nippon Seragaya. And quite frankly, it feels so just out of nowhere. It's like, oh, we're doing this now. Like, Night Cruising comes along, like, you had Sunny Blue, Baby Blue, and you're like, oh, yes. And the opener, you're like, yes, this is so fun. And then Night Cruising, and you're like, okay, this is good, but I want more groove, you know? I'd rather go to Uchu Nippon Seragaya for ambient Fishman's pop. But at the end of the day, this one just kind of tries to do it, but it fails just by a little. It's still great, though. It's still great. It's a strong 8 to a light 9 for me. I really enjoy this one. Staying in A tier, though, we do have King Master George. I really enjoy this one, man. I think this one's super fun. I think it's like a weird clash of their dub reggae stuff and the dream pop stuff, and then it's just a really weird album, man. It's really weird, really all over the place. Variations in sound are just everywhere. Kind of bipolar record. Really fun. It's a decent 9 for me, man. Really nothing more to say about this one. Up in S tier, though, starting us off, we got Long Season. This is the first Fishman's project I listened to, and it just hit. It's so good, man. I love this thing. I just think its one problem is the ambient kind of weird chimey sounds and the weird like watery drum. That part goes on for a little too long. But other than that, it's just flawless, man. The synth line, Shinji singing, just sends me to a different place, man. I think the only I just have that one problem with it. It's just the weird ambient part goes on for a little too long. But other than that, this album is fantastic. It's probably the best place to start with for Fishmans because it kind of shows you their more ambitious sound. And yeah, it's fantastic. It's a 10 out of 10, man. Super great album. There are two albums better though, and one of those is Uchu Nippon Setagaya, which, by the way, I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names. This one has immaculate vibes. Like, this is probably Fishman's most nostalgic sounding record to me, and it just has this strange melancholy sound that I adore. It's their more ambient pop album, and I appreciate that it's just all ambient pop. It's not like Uchu Camp where it like starts out groovy and then kind of declines. It just stays like just this chill, melancholy, cold, and watery sound the whole time. It has some of my all-time favorite Fishman songs. If we're not including Long Season Live, it's obviously Walking in the Rhythm. That has to be my favorite Fishman song. But other than that, man, this album's fantastic. There's no problems with it. No issues. Fantastic. Just straight throughout. Super vibey, super melancholy. Just super nostalgic, man. 10 out of 10. Above it, though, we have 98, 12, 28, of course. And this album is a masterpiece. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. I could say the same about Uchu Nippon, actually. That's one of my favorite albums, too. But 98, 12, 28 just hits, man. Now, before I talk about Long Season, I got to talk about everything else. As I said, the songs like that I performed live from Orange and Neo Yankee kind of bring it down a little. I think that the song called Oh Slime, that's a fun song. I really like it. I also like the track. I'm pretty sure it's called Thank You. I just like everything else on here, man. I like the Kuchu Camp tracks. I like the Uchu Nippon tracks. I like the King Master George cuts. I like everything on here, dude. Now, in the Injury Reserve video, I made a comparison from this album to By the Time I Get to Phoenix, in the sense that By the Time I Get to Phoenix doesn't have like this crescendo at the end that kind of ties it together for me. But this album ties it all together at the end. It's hard to talk about this album and not rant about Long Season, because Long Season just freaking cut deep with me. I think a lot of people just say, oh, listen to 98, 12, 28. It's one of the greatest albums of all time, and don't think about, like it's just, you can't just listen to this album. You have to listen to everything else before this. You got to listen to just everything else on this tier list before you listen to this album, because it ties it up together so well. Because by the time I finished Chappie Don't Cry, King Master George, and all the earlier days stuff, I kind of came to the conclusion that Fishmans is my favorite band of all time. They literally have a near flawless catalog. Even their albums that are weak are still good. And when I heard Long Season, I was blown away. When the synth line came in and Shinji starts singing, everything just hit and clicked with me. And I'm pretty sure that the live cover of Long Season is probably my favorite song of all time. This thing just, it's a masterpiece in audio. It's fantastic. The singing, fantastic. Everything about it is on point. And by the end, there is 10 extra minutes tacked onto the song, and it hits, man. It's kind of hard for me to talk about this song, because when I finished it, I was sent bawling for 5 straight minutes. This was the last recorded song. I'm pretty sure this is the last recorded song by lead singer Shinji Sato, and he passed away shortly after. And just hearing his voice and then hearing silence, it gave me goosebumps and made me just break down. It's heartbreaking that he died so young, and they still plan on making music after. It's kind of, oh my god, man. It's just beautiful, man. The song's beautiful. It's a masterpiece, man. It's so good. fantastic, man. It's, as I said, my favorite song of all time. Super good. But yeah, this album is one of my favorites of all time. Easily. Easily. It's a 10 out of 10, man. Come on, stop playing with me. But yeah, there's my tier list, man. Share your rankings in the comments as always. Glad you made it this far. I'm going to be doing more rap stuff. I swear, man. I just wanted to get this one out because, as I said, Fishmans. I love Fishmans, man. But yeah, I'm glad you made it this far. Hope you liked the video, and I hope to see you in the next one, man. Goodbye.